I what I saw was that they are so confident. They like where are y'all getting this confidence from? Because the last time you found money in your sack and you didn't put it there.
Right. Right.
So for you to be like, kill whoever got it, yes, do that.
Yeah.
Like, it's so extreme. Y'all don't always have to be so extreme. Reuben was like, kill my sons if I don't bring him back. Like, it doesn't.
What is going on, XYZers?
Hey.
Generational Scriptures is back in the building.
Mm-hmm.
I like saying that. It makes me feel like a hip hop artist. I used to write little raps when I was younger.
Really?
I called myself the CM.
Oh.
I tried to like come up with something for it, but I was like, yeah, it's just my initials, and I thought it sounded cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, nothing ever happened with that. So it is what it is. Oh man, it's great to be back before you once again. As I feel like I say that a lot, but it is. And I am one of your co-hosts, the latchkeyed one himself, the CM. I'm Chris. It's great to see you. And next to me, we have Miss
Resident Millennial.
Miss
Moyo.
Moyo. Yes, indeedy.
Yep.
The peace signs.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have
Jasmine, the microwaver.
Yep.
Your Gen Zer.
Representing the
I never say
Z
Gen
folks.
Y, huh?
No, because you don't have to.
Gen Y sounds weird.
It does.
Mm.
The millennial sounds better.
It does. And then the resident millennial sounds
right.
the best.
It sounds the best.
The best.
Yeah, I love it.
We are back before you once again to go through chapter 44.
Year chapter 44. But before we jump in,
Hold on, what's our title? I'm having a bad time.
Our
with
title
titles.
is
Redemption
Achieved.
Huh. Maybe we should have called it like Unlocked. Isn't that like a hip thing now? So something mode unlocked. Isn't that like
Redemption mode unlocked?
Redemption mode unlocked.
Yeah.
But a redemption achieved, I think.
Either way,
still make
people will see the title when they see the title.
Okay.
Yeah, y'all will know once y'all see this.
Cool.
Yep.
So I'm sorry I interrupted, but I am so eager to get to the recap.
Yes, me too.
Yes, recap of chapter 43. So 2 weeks ago, we would have posted that. And we started off with Israel basically telling his sons, hey, we need more food.
Yep.
And Judah is like, listen, guy, I already told you we can't go back without Benjamin. Israel is like, hey, y'all can't take my son. He's like, but all of us will die if we don't take your son, including your favorite son. So do you want him to die or do you want us to live? And so he finally is like, yeah, go ahead. So they go back. They get put into Joseph's house because Joseph is like, take them. We're going to have a feast. And they're like, oh my goodness, we're going to die. And then so they came back with the money that they, they found. The money that was given back and extra money plus gifts and all of that. So they were prepared and they went ahead and said, hey, we didn't steal. Just want to let you guys know. The steward said, it's fine. I got your money. Don't worry about it. And they're like, okay, all right. Like first magic trick. Yeah. Then they put them in order from oldest to youngest. They're like, wait a minute. That's a little strange, but okay. And they end up with everybody just being happy and merry, no jealousy, no nothing. Even though Joseph tried it, he tried to provoke them. I don't know why he be provoking his brothers. You're not even thinking about that last time because he was provoking his brothers in the beginning by snitching, by following them. Like now you want to do it again to see if it'll annoy them again. Like relax, they're grown now. They're adults. They real grown. But nobody was really fazed, so I think we're good. They're good.
I think so.
They're trying to be honest men.
Yeah, they're trying.
They're trying.
They're doing what they can. The recap, the Moyo, the resident millennial recap is like none other.
Yeah. So, and if you want the full story, go back and watch that episode for the details.
Boom. Mic drop.
Mic
Yeah,
drop.
put the
Go
link.
back and
Put the
watch.
link.
Oh man, that is awesome. So we are now caught up, and we are in Genesis chapter 44,
Yes.
where we get to see some more of the happenings with
Mm-hmm.
all of them gathered together.
Yes.
So, Genesis 44, verses 1 through 5. Jasmine, do you mind reading that for us?
Sure. And I don't know if we ever say what version we're reading from, but we're reading from the ESV.
Yep.
Yes.
So this is Genesis chapter 44, verses 1 through 5. Then he commanded to the steward of his house, fill the men's sacks with food, as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of his sack, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, with his money for the grain. And he did as Joseph told him. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away with their donkeys. They had gone only a short distance from the city. Now Joseph said to his steward, "Up, follow after the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, 'Why have you repaid evil for good? Is it not from this that the Lord drinks, and by this that he practices divination? Have you done evil in doing this?'"
Okay. So we were just happy.
I know. They were merry. They were bright.
It was all good just a minute ago. Then the next day,
Yeah.
Joseph and his master plans.
I mean, I get it. Joseph is like, I'm glad he's not an evil genius, because he would have ruled the entire world.
Yeah.
Pharaoh and no one else would have had a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's just like, why?
What you mean, why? Them people sold him into slavery.
I get it. I know.
He begged for his life,
Yeah.
and they didn't care.
They
So
didn't
yes,
I know.
keep on treating them like that.
Now, there needs to be, but what is the greater? I don't know. Like, there needs to be. There was no alternative, Joseph. Like, I was
What
like,
did you want him to do? As
I
the
don't
alternative?
know, but like, just because reading this, going through the whole thing, I was like, there was other means for you to get to that end result.
Listen, the only other means would have been, I'm gonna go get my dad. I'm gonna get my brother. The rest of y'all go to jail for the amount of years that I was in jail. That would have been the alternative, and
Well,
we don't want that.
But that's, what is it? What's the word? Vengeance. That's like that is him being bitter and upset and angry about what was done to him. But as we've seen before, Joseph, well, when he wasn't in control of his emotions with the spy accusations, that's not what he's doing this for. That's not, God has a greater plan. He's doing the, like, we know Joseph is extra smart, and he has these grand plans. I just felt like this was petty. Like, there was
Yes.
another way for you to
It
go
was
about
petty.
this.
We accept that. We gave him grace for being petty because these people put him in jail. Well, sold him into slavery, and he ended up in jail. Like,
Yeah.
a lot has happened to this man.
Yes.
Let him be petty a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Because if it was me, it'd have been different.
Yeah,
I'd have got my dad and my brother. Maybe y'all kids, because I don't even know if I would bang with these kids. Like, forget them nieces and nephews. Just the two.
Well, see, I sympathized a little bit here, because I felt like he's like, okay, put the cup in the sack of the youngest. So really what you want, and this is why I'm like, there was alternative means, because if you boil this down, and I do this in real life, I'm like, when someone is angry or like they're freaking out, I'm like, let's get to the root of this. Really, you're sad. Okay, let's boil this down a bit. Really, what Joseph wanted, he wants his brother. Like, he wanted his brother to come back. Otherwise, he wouldn't have put it in his sack, sent them away just for them to have to come back. That was my initial thought.
I think it's still all a part of his test. He's continually testing his brothers to see if they've changed. Will they stand up for their brother? Or will they be like, you know what? We out. Go ahead, take him.
Bye.
It's fine.
That's I agree. I see both sides, because one is, bruh, do you really have to do this
Right.
to get to your end goal?
Right.
The other side is, his ultimate goal, I think, is to see their redemption, to see if they've changed, to see if they would still treat him the same way, and he's using Benjamin in place of him, I think.
Well, then let me ask this. Is that his responsibility, or is that the responsibility of God, or is God doing it through him?
I mean, go ahead.
I would say I don't think that God is doing it through him, because I think we talked about maybe 2 chapters ago how God doesn't sin, right?
Right.
So if we are seeing what he's doing as sin, then it can't be God, right? I don't know if God is trying to say we need to see that they are changed or not. I think in this case, it's Joseph wants to see if his brothers have changed. And I don't know, maybe God is doing, we know God is doing something, but I just feel like it's Joseph. The way he's going about it is him.
It's a hard question to answer, because what you're really, and I've had this discussion. See, God be doing stuff. God, I've had discussions about this in the past week or two, and it's a hard discussion because what you're really battling against or with, and I don't want to say battling, the tension. That's one of my words. It was one of my words 2 or 3 years ago. I think I said it before. Every year I have a word, and it's like, and so one of my words, I think this year my word is attention. But there is this tension that I think we see throughout Scripture, and that tension is really about the activities and the behavior of man versus the sovereignty, the providence of God. We know, just as Moyo said, and she's absolutely right, that God is all good, right? There's no sin in him. He's not a man that he should lie. There's no falsehood in him. But the beauty and the tension is that the tension is that he doesn't cause man to do these things, but he still uses these things to get his ends accomplished. And I think that's the whole of this story of Joseph that we're going to see in the next, couple of weeks. I also think that, so to answer your question, is there an alternative mean? Well, they're going to behave and do things that they think is right. Joseph and the brothers, right? Even to the point of being evil and selling people into slavery and all of that good stuff, and the way Judah treated Tamar and all of that stuff, right? God can then take that, even with all of their bad dealings, and work that out to his own ends. So it's not that God is the author of evil, or he's done any evil, or he's done any sin. He's just able to take those things that you are going to do and move them to get still his will accomplished. Because he's a sovereign God that way, a God of providence that way. The other thing I'll say about this, and the reason for the redemption, is when we start to, and this is more of a question and a thought that I'm having. I'm wondering if we're seeing the life of Israel as a nation in these 12 now. Because when you think of Israel as a nation, what you see time and time again is that Israel will go off and worship other gods and want to be more like other nations, right? And then God has to punish them for that. They get exiled, right? They fall in battle. But then God brings, a remnant back into himself, sort of redeems them, and they come back in good graces because they've realized that they've wronged and done some wrong things. So I'm wondering if even in this and wanting this redemption, we're getting a glimpse into what the life of Israel as a nation is going to be like, where there is this constant rebelling against God, worshiping idols, worshiping other gods, falling into judgment, falling into exile, but then God bringing them back in a redeeming way because they've turned, they've changed. Yeah. And now he's bringing them back into himself to be that nation that is the apple of his eye. So I think there are two things going on here. One is we're looking forward in terms of what Israel is going to be like, but two, also we're still seeing God work things out, even with decisions that man makes to get accomplished what he wants to get accomplished.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I just said all that stuff. Hopefully, I'm glad you said it made sense.
No, that
I'm
does.
trying to remember where we started with all of that.
Because we were saying, like, if is this Joseph? Is this God? Or is this God through Joseph? But that makes sense. Like, it's God, whatever. The only reason I asked is because for all these times, Joseph has been, like, very adamant that this is God working. And so now I'm like, but like you said, God doesn't do wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing wrong just as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's separate from God.
Yeah. It still has the intended consequence. And I've heard some people try and dismiss the actions that Joseph is doing. I can't get over the fact that he knew that they weren't spies, but he called them spies. I can realize the fact that Joseph is just way smarter than me, and he's got some. He's right. He's working and cooking up the plan in his head into what this ultimately will mean. But it's like it's Joseph that's doing these things. It's Joseph, and if it's a lie, it's still a lie.
Right.
Yeah.
If he's telling untruths and setting people up, that's still a falsehood to me.
Yeah.
But Joseph has this mind, and he's cooking things up, and has a picture of the end, I think, and God is still using that to get to his ultimate ends.
Yeah, and I don't know if he has a picture of the end as much as he is just testing them over and over. Yeah, he wants proof. It's like when I was talking about like wanting a sign from God. Tell me again in a different way. True. So they have confessed to be honest men. And I feel like I keep bringing that up because they are standing on that. And he's like, well, what if this happens? Well, what if that happens? Or what if, like, he's throwing things at them to test them to see, are you truly these honest men that you claim to be? Because the version of you I know is not honest.
Right.
The version of you I know will sell your brother into slavery, will watch me plead for my life and do nothing about it, will just eat dinner and be cool with somebody like literally crying in a pit.
Very good point. Yeah.
And he's like, I don't believe it. Let me try something else. Yeah. What can I do to really provoke them to anger, to show their true selves?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because that could be it. And it'll turn out one or two ways. It'll either be that they have truly been redeemed in a sense. They've turned from what they would have done to me. Yeah. Or they're still the same people, and maybe he's got a whole nother plan.
Yeah.
For how
it's like, I'm going to push as many buttons until I feel confident in the fact that you've changed.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Oh, man. So gave him the food, gave him some money, the silver cup.
I think silver is interesting because they sold him for silver, and now he's like, here, put this silver in their thing that has value.
Yeah. And it's also interesting because he says, and by this he practices divination.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I keep wondering if that's a play by Joseph, because we know that Joseph he understands that he can interpret dreams, and those interpretations come from God.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if it's a play, because divination, when I was reading up on this, and it'll come up again as we're reading through, the divination is they used to do things like take a cup and pour water and oil in it, and then see, that they don't mix, and then see the swirls or whatever shape it makes in the cup, and then sort of look at it and try and do omens and foretelling with that. So it's like, I wonder if Joseph is like divination. Yeah, I know where the real divination comes from. It comes from God, who's able to tell you about and interpret dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just sort of doing a play with that on words and the silver cup, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's one thing that stood out to me. I was like,
and
how is he practicing divination?
I looked at it two ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
On one side, I was thinking Joseph has, I would say, assimilated to Egyptian culture, right? Mm-hmm. He's speaking their language. He dresses like them. He looks like them.
Yeah.
And maybe because he's in the position he is, he needs to carry a cup to prove that I do. I have the same powers. I have the same, like, whatever those people do, right?
Mm.
The other side of it, and I was like, okay, we were talking about how he's still set apart, but maybe he's not as set apart as we think. Maybe he has actually, like, I'm in this now, and this is where I am. I'm a part of this group.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I was like, maybe he carries the cup because you're supposed to, and that's what it's used for. He may not be doing it, and we would hope he's not, because he's always been like I guess I'll say child of God, because I don't know what else to say, but he's always been that in the whole story.
Mm-hmm.
So I would assume he's not practicing their stuff, but he has to still fit the mold because
That makes sense. Yeah.
he's in this position. So he has to have a cup of divination.
Yeah.
He might not use it, but he has it.
Yeah.
Just like he has to shave his head and he has to wear the little eye,
Yeah, the
little eye makeup.
thing,
Like
right?
he has to do all the things that they do. He has to speak the language.
Yeah.
Some of the things he just has to do because you're supposed to.
Yeah. And I think even at this point, he's still using interpreters to communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because we saw that earlier. And yeah, I agree. When I read this, I was like, I don't think there's a way with the way that Joseph talked about God gives interpretations of dreams that he thinks divination is the way to go. So I agree. He probably just has it because everybody in Egypt has a cup, or they look at him that way. I don't think he's practicing it. But I think it is a way for him to even further, not turn the knife, but twist the brothers up into being like, oh, this is something that's important.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or it's also showing that mystical, like, put them in order.
Yeah.
I have a cup of divination. Like, I am an Egyptian.
Yeah.
Like, they would never guess it's Joseph because of all of these things.
Because of all of those things. Yeah, and I think that'll come up later as well. That'll come up later as well. Oh man! So anything else on these couple of verses that we want to? Anybody wants to bring up? Yeah, they got sent away. They didn't get far. All right. So next up, we've got Genesis 44 verses 6 through 13. And they read as follows: When he overtook them, the steward, he spoke to them these words, the words that Joseph told him to speak. They said to him, the brothers, why does my Lord speak such words as these? Far be it from your servants to do such a thing. Behold, the money that we found in the mouths of our sack we brought back to you from the land of Canaan. How then could we steal silver or gold from your Lord's house? Whichever of your servants is found with it shall die. And we also will be my Lord's servants. He said, let it be as you say. He who is found with it shall be my servant, and the rest of you shall be innocent. Then each man quickly lowered his sack to the ground, and each man opened his sack, and he searched, beginning with the eldest, ending with the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. They tore their clothes, and every man loaded his donkey, and they returned to the city. Did anybody find it interesting, the response of the brothers?
Yes, they're finally sticking together.
They're sticking together.
That felt like I think we talked about it last episode. You know how like you talked about the they versus like one being called out.
Yep.
This time, in like the test of like, are you gonna stand up for your brother? It was good to see that they're kind of sticking together rather than saying, oh well, take him, kill him, you know, whatever.
Yeah. What I saw was that they are so confident. They like where are y'all getting this confidence from? Because the last time you found money in your sack and you didn't put it there.
Right.
So for you to be like, kill whoever got it, yes, do that. Yeah. Like, it's so extreme. Y'all don't always have to be so extreme. Reuben was like, kill my sons if I don't bring him back. Like, it doesn't have to be that far. Y'all need to start looking at the law. The law will say you steal, you become a slave. You don't have to die.
You don't have to go that far.
Exactly. You don't have to do
They're
all of
desperate. They're like, look, it wasn't us by any means necessary. We can prove it was not us. And
you could just say, just okay, check us. You could say, if anything, you would say, oh, if we did it was by mistake because the last time things were found in our bag and we will give it back.
You know?
That would have been way smarter because you found stuff in your bag last time.
They have to be extreme.
Why?
I don't know.
Because their dad is dramatic. He raised them all to be dramatic.
Maybe. I'm with you. I'm like, these guys is going hard. They're like,
you didn't even check. Y'all didn't check. Okay, you didn't learn from the last time to look in your bag before you go.
thank you.
Right, that's valid.
And you haven't looked in your bag, so you don't know what's in the bag.
No. I mean, I was thinking of this and I was like, is this showing the mind of Joseph and his thinking and how smart he is and how planning he is, how good a planner he is, and the lack of that for the brothers? Because
Yeah.
I would be like, okay, last time we left, I'm with you, Moyo. Check your bags.
Mhm.
We
Yes.
ain't taking nothing back that we ain't find.
Mhm.
If we find something, we gonna turn it in now
Yeah, before we
before we leave, because we not getting caught out there. We almost home.
Yeah.
And we that's not happening to us again.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they was just like, boom, we out of here early in the morning.
Maybe they were a little tipsy still.
Maybe.
Maybe they weren't in their right minds.
And again, that's why Joseph is so next level. I wonder if he did all of that, not just to sort of poke him a little bit, but to also just get him so at ease.
And
Right.
they don't worry
We're all
about it.
good now.
Yeah.
We're boys. Me and the second in command of Egypt, we like this. I got his number and I can text him right now if you want me to.
Yeah.
You know how people are.
Mhm.
So yeah, they just
They are all naive. Like, this whole family is naive.
crazy. It's crazy.
I
So
think-
yeah,
It's interesting that we don't hear from Benjamin.
isn't it?
I was thinking about that. Like, we keep
Isn't
talking about him, but he don't get to talk.
Yeah.
He's not. But in this instance, I guess the only justification I have in my mind is because Judah speaks on behalf of the brothers now, or
Well, in
he
this
has been
section,
speaking.
it's just a collective, right?
Mhm.
Just for the ones we just read up until 13.
Mhm.
So we don't know who, like, in the beginning, but all of them are agreeing to it apparently.
Mhm.
Yep. But also think back. Trying to think from the pit until we get to Potiphar's wife. Did we really hear from Joseph? We didn't know the words that Joseph said in the pit until the brothers confessed.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was heart-wrenching to me because sometimes we think that Joseph was just going along to get along.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we finally see that, he was fighting. He knew and wanted out of there.
Yeah.
And they just ignored him. So again,
Yeah.
I think that we're drawing parallels back to what you were saying with the testing, because wants to see the treatment of Benjamin versus the treatment of Joseph
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
this same group of brothers.
Mhm, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a good pickup that we don't hear anything from Benjamin.
And they,
So
I say, and then they tore their clothes, like, they're in mourning. They can't lose him.
Mhm.
It's not even an option to lose him. Like, we all stay. Nobody's going back to our dad. We can't.
yeah.
Banding together. I love it. I love to see it.
And what makes it even more interesting to me, more impactful to me, is that they brought this up. Whoever has the cup's going to die, and the rest of us will be your servants. And the steward says, it's weird. It's like he's double-minded. He says, as you say, but then he says, no, only the person that stole the cup needs to be my servant. The rest of y'all can go,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
which was what Joseph commanded.
Mhm.
So this is one time where if they were being selfish, they were
They
thinking
could've.
just for themselves, right? And the collective comes into play here,
Mhm.
because imagine the rest of them didn't do the pledge like Judah did. So realistically, it could have just been Judah
Yeah.
who went back. But as a collective, they were like, man, we all got to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
I could see them. They got to pick the bags up. I load up the donkeys. All of them are downtrodden now. Nobody's probably saying a word on the way back to Egypt.
And I feel like they would have known. They know Benjamin didn't do it because this has already happened. And they're opening their bags. They're seeing money. So we're going down the line and we're like, oh, wait a minute. It's money in here again.
Right.
And now it's a cup.
And now
it's not. He didn't do it. Like, we promise you he didn't do it. And we're going to go. We're all going to go because we all are. I think they knew his innocence. And that's going back to Joseph. Joseph was innocent. They didn't care. They know that Benjamin's innocent and they want to fight for him and they want to stand up for him. Because I feel like if they didn't have money in their bags, they might have been like, he stole that.
Leave him.
Why'd you do that?
Yeah.
And there's no accusation.
Yeah.
Genesis 44, verses 14 through 17. Moyo, you mind reading that for us?
Yep. 14 to 17. When Judah and his brothers came to Joseph's house, he was still there. They fell before him to the ground. Joseph said to them, "What deed is this that you have done? Do you not know that a man like me can indeed practice divination?" And Judah said, "What shall we say to you, my lord? What shall we speak? Or how can we clear ourselves? God has found out the guilt of your servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also, in whose hand the cup was found." But he said, "Far be it from me that I should do so. Only the man in whose hand the cup was found shall be my servant. But as for you, go up in peace to your father."
Wow. So they get back and they get to see Joseph. Get to see the man. Them, right? The brothers, his brothers, Judah and his brothers. And who takes over the lead speaking role again? Judah. So again, Judah confronted the dad. Now he's being the spokesperson for the brothers in front of the second in command of Egypt, in front of the man. What do we think about his response?
He was speechless.
Yeah.
Like, what can I say? What can I do? I just, I don't know.
Did it make you feel a little bad for him?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel bad for all of them. I feel bad for Benjamin. Like, you weren't supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Your daddy said don't go.
Oh man. Yeah. So it's just like look, I don't know what to tell you. What can I say? Anything that would make you change your mind? Right. It's that last thing where I just gotta appeal to anything that you want to hear that would make us not guilty of this act.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too because, like I said, there were alternative means, Joseph, because we see he could have kept them all. Like, if he being frustrated with all of his brothers, let's say, right? You guys did all this to me. You guys are the reason that I suffered for all that time. He could have imprisoned or made all of them his servants. Instead, he said, no, I want the one. I want Benjamin. And really, I believe he just wanted Benjamin close to him. He wanted to keep Benjamin with him. So this was his way of doing that in a way that also put fear in the hearts of his brothers. That was not, in my opinion, you didn't have to do all that to achieve that goal. There may have been other ways for you to, like, reveal yourself. But, we know that happens a little bit later on. But to say, no, the boy stays with me, you guys go. But I guess this way he had reason. Like, he has to stay with me because he committed this crime. So I guess it's more like a sound reason why he could kick them out and leave him behind.
Yeah. I think it goes back to what you were saying, Moyo, about the testing. Because it could be that even if they left and said, Benjamin, sorry, bro, you on your own. Benjamin would still be close, and he was going to take care of his brother. He wasn't going to. I don't know what they did to Simeon. It's like, even in the last chapter, we didn't touch on it that much, but Simeon comes back And hey, the steward brought Simeon out. We don't hear about Simeon for the rest of the
Right,
thing. We
right.
don't know that they were like, "Yo, my guy, we fight.
Yeah.
We're back." None of that. It's just like, all right, Simeon's here. All right, next. But we know, I have a very good feeling, particularly for the treatment and the way that Joseph was happy about seeing Benjamin, that if they had done that, Benjamin would be fine. And the only person that Joseph would be worried about would be his dad at that point. And if he wanted to, he could go get him because he's the second in command.
That's true.
So it's the testing.
Yeah.
I agree.
And maybe if they said, we'll leave him, he would have said, next time you want food, bring your daddy. We don't know.
We don't know. He could do that because, again, Joseph is next level.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his superpower, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. But they can't go back without their brothers. So
no.
they're all gonna stay.
So we see the, what can I do? What can I say? And Joseph's response is interesting because the steward said, y'all can leave, but Joseph said the same thing.
Yeah.
Y'all don't, I just want the person who did this.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of y'all can go.
Yeah.
Right? And you can go in peace to your father.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you leave, I'm not going to hold any of this against you.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean, far be it from me? Because I was trying to rationalize in my mind what he means by that. Is it just simply like, I'm not going to do that?
Far be it from me. Like, that's not even something that I would do. It's so far away from me and my like personality or my, I feel like that's a normal phrase in Nigerian culture. Like it's something that I wouldn't even touch. It's far away from me. I would never do this.
Okay.
Like, it's just a saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I paired that with when he said that he was going to hold all the brothers. And will let one go back, I think, when they first came to Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Then they went to jail for 3 days, I think it was. And he came back
Change
and
your
was
heart.
like, yeah, this.
Because he feared God.
Right. Because he feared God, I'm not going to do that. So it's like, I pair those things together.
It's like I would never.
Yeah.
Like when people say I would never, like, that's not even something I would think of doing.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then the divination comes up again. Do you know that a man like me can indeed practice divination? I think he's throwing a shot.
Yeah.
Because he's like, how could you possibly think that you would get away with my silver cup? I practice divination. I know these things. Well, you know it because you had your steward put it in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a shot. Like you could not have gotten away with this if you wanted to. Just to sort of foot stomp the fact that, you guys did this.
Yeah.
You guys did this. Anything else from these couple of verses? Next up, Genesis 44, verses 18 to 23.
Oh wait, hold on. Sorry.
Go.
I think it was verse 16. What did they say?
God has found out the guilt of your servants.
Yeah, that
Behold,
part. Yeah.
We are my Lord's servants, both we and he also, in whose hand the cup has been found.
Yeah. The finding out the guilt of his servants. Which guilt? Yeah. Which guilt are we referring to?
Yep.
Because the brothers don't plead the way that I feel like I would have. Like the first time we came, there was money. We brought it back. It's happened again. We don't know what's going on. We just don't know. Like they didn't put out any arguments. They were just like, you know what? We're guilty. It's fine. Yeah. But why accept the guilt when you haven't done anything? Is it the guilt of your past that you're referring to? Or is it the guilt of we can't lose our brother, so we aren't even going to argue? Like, what guilt are we fighting for?
Honestly, I think it's the guilt of their past.
I think so too. That's how I interpreted that. That every single time we talk of guilt, I think they feel like they deserve this because of what they did to Joseph.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder about the tie and the concern that Reuben had. I think it was Reuben about the blood and the crying out after them, like always um, um, finding guilt, always testifying against them, sort of that type of thing. And I wonder if every time something bad happens,
They think about
they
that.
think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike Jacob or Israel, who's just like, why have you done this to me? Maybe Jacob's the same way, because we know he did some stuff in his past as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But in this case, I think it's the guilt of what they did to Joseph that they've confessed to already.
Yeah.
And it's just continuing to follow. And then maybe it's because also they haven't, like you mentioned before, I think last episode, he hasn't confessed. They haven't confessed to their dad yet what they did.
Right.
So, yeah, they're in a pickle. They're in a pickle.
All right.
Oh, the one last thing before we, they are coming back, and we've seen. Let me ask a question. Let me do it this way. When do we think that Joseph's dream of the sheaves was fully met? Was fully revealed?
Would it have been when they all came back with Benjamin?
That's what I'm wondering. I think so. I think when Benjamin came back and they bowed and prostrated themselves, that they met that dream. But one thing that stood out to me in 37:8, it says here, his brother said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. These brothers, right, all of them are now saying, we as all the brothers are going to be your servants. Mm-hmm. You're going to reign over us. We're going to serve you.
Yeah.
And it made me think back to that segment and the response to their dream. And they're fulfilling it in a sense, of putting themselves in that role without even really recognizing it. Yeah. So again, it's just layer upon layer of things that we see here in this story as it continues to play out. All right. Next up, Genesis 44, verses 18 to 23. Jasmine, would you mind reading?
Sure. Okay. Yes, Genesis 44, 18 to 23. Then Judah went up to him and said, "O my Lord, please let your servant speak a word in my Lord's ear, and let not your anger burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh himself." My Lord asked his servant, saying, "Have you a father or a brother?" And we said to my Lord, "We have a father, an old man, and a younger brother, the child of his old age. His brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. Then you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, that I may set my eyes on him. We said to my Lord, The boy cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father, his father would die. Then you said to your servants, Unless your younger brother comes down with you, you shall not see my face again."
So he's doing a recap.
I was like, you just replaying the story.
Yep, he's just replaying the story. But again, Judah in the leadership role, right? And it just seems to be happening more and more. Where these are places where I think I would have expected Reuben to step up. Judah is like, "Come on, let me holler at you for a second. Let's step over to the side. Because I got some stuff I want to say to you between me and you, and the rest of the brothers don't have to hear this." I mean, so it's almost like he stepped up to his dad in 42, right? He's speaking for the brothers now. Whenever, as of late, we see one brother speaking, it's Judah. Yeah, and he's really in that role of leadership. Anything stand out to you about what he's told back to Joseph thus far about their journey and about how they got here?
I just feel like he's trying to explain the hoops that they had to jump through, or like the history of their family that brought them to this point. Like that's his reason for retelling this story again, because Joseph knows, obviously, but he knows what he has told them to do. So this happens in real that this stood out to me because in real life, like this happens. I have someone who does this when we talk. We'll be arguing, and then they'll go back through the entire situation. Well, I said, and then you said, and then I'm like, I know I was here. I was a part of the conversation. You don't have to recap for me. But when they do, it's like you're trying to tell me that you've proved your point. You've proved my point. Like you've done what you had to do to get me to be okay. Like I'm no longer angry, and that's the same thing I thought was going on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I almost wonder if Judah's trying to be smart and be like, the whole reason that Benjamin is here is because you made him. You made us bring him.
Yeah.
Benjamin would not leave his father's side. His father didn't want him to come back. The reason he's here, right?
Because you asked for him.
Is because you said, unless your brother comes down with you, that you shall not see my face again.
Yeah.
Right. It's really just a recap, but it's interesting that it's Judah doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the same thought. That Joseph is like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know this story. I was there.
Yeah.
And I know what Benjamin probably means to my dad about now. So, Genesis 44, verses 24 through 29. When we went back to your servant, my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And when our father said, go again, buy us a little food, we said, we cannot go down if our youngest brother goes with us. Then we will go down. For we cannot see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Then your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One left me. And I said, surely he has been torn to pieces, and I have never seen him since. If you take this one also from me, and harm happens to him, you will bring down my gray hairs in evil to Sheol. Still recapping. This time it seems like it switched from the fact that we came the first time and you inquired about Benjamin and had us to bring him back, to now the impact on the dad, Benjamin. Do you feel like he's pulling on heartstrings here?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense because he's inquired about, how was your father, the old man? Is he still alive? He's inquired about him. So it's like they are naive, we said, right? Because they didn't check their bags, but now it seems like Judah's starting to be like, I got to put a really good argument together, to get back and to get something accomplished that I want to get accomplished.
Yeah. I just thought like, oh, he must be sobering up. Life is real right now. Get it together.
Life is lifing. It's like, anything else there that we need to touch on that we want to talk about?
No.
Genesis 44, verses 30 through 34.
All right.
You mind reading those, Moya?
Yep. Now, therefore, as soon as I come to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, then as his life is bound up in the boy's life, as soon as he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die. And your servants will bring down the gray hairs of your servant, our father, with sorrow to Sheol. For your servant became a pledge of safety for the boy to my father, saying, if I do not bring him back to you, then I shall bear the blame before my father all my life. Now, therefore, please let your servant remain instead of the boy as a servant to my Lord, and let the boy go back with his brothers. For how can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? I fear to see the evil that will find my father. Yeah. Judah put his money where his mouth was.
When you think about him now, trying to think of the saying, you see me now, or something like that. It's like, what do we think about Judah now? He's put his money where his mouth is.
I think Judah, even from the Tamar story, we saw how he changed. And back then we saw a change in him. Like he treated Tamar similar to how he treated like Joseph, dispensable. Like it doesn't matter. You are not, like, I'm not worried about you.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, he's like, wow, she was more righteous than me.
Yeah.
And now he's like, maybe he's trying to live up to higher standards now. He's no longer just seeing people as dispensable. He's like, there's value in people. He has lost his own sons. Like he knows what life is now, what life means to people. And he's like, I can't do that to my dad. Not again.
Not again.
So yeah.
Yeah.
He definitely has changed.
And when we went through chapter 38, it seemed like it could seem when you're reading through like it's out of place.
Mm-hmm.
But without that, I don't think we get the insight to the things that potentially, as you just mentioned, caused this change of heart in Judah. Right. So I think once we get here, we get to see why that was placed there and understand that it happened at some point after Joseph had left until they came back to Egypt the first time in chapter 42. He talks about, again, making the case about his dad and what Benjamin not going back would do to him. He, also, interestingly enough, he points out the fact that he was the pledge, right? The surety for Benjamin to his dad. So, again, do we think he's trying to curry favor with Joseph by even mentioning that piece?
I think that he's truly like, take me instead. Like it's not even a play. It's just I cannot do this to my dad. Yeah. Please just take me.
Just take me.
Like it's not even maybe you'll let both of us go. He's willing to give up himself for his brother at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking like extreme accountability. Like I didn't get any like ill will from this. Because again, I really look at it as if he's putting himself in his dad's shoes if he lost Shayla.
Yeah.
That's what I just keep thinking about. Like understanding the pain of losing sons, he understands that pain. So just knowing that what that can do to you, he's like, nah, like you said, I can't do that to my dad. Like something got to give. And if it's got to be me, I made the pledge. So take me.
Yeah. So does this make us look back at that chapter 38, the Judah Tamar story any differently? I know we brought it up with the fact that he mentioned that he was more righteous, that Tamar was more righteous than him. Mm-hmm. But I mean, and now we've brought up Shelah, but there was a lot that transpired in those story in that chapter when we go through that time in Judah's life. Do we look back at anything that we can remember from that story any differently now that we see this change? Or is it really all of that we think is just what led to the change and the pieces in it?
I think all of it is what led to the change. And also the fact that I think, as Jasmine said, he can empathize with this, right? And his family is going to be taken care of no matter what. Whether he's there or not, but he can't guarantee that his dad is not literally gonna die if he loses his son. And he doesn't want that. Yeah. As much as the dad might not like them, they love their dad.
They do love their dad. Yeah. I think, and I think that's the case because you can tell. I mean, they listen to him, and do what he says. Anything else? Because I think this was really a lot of retelling, right?
Yeah.
We got a couple of good nuggets out of there.
Yeah, I'm excited for the next chapter.
Me too.
Yeah, I am too. We said this last time, that is really 43, 44, and 45. If we could do them all together, that would probably be cool. Mm-hmm. But you have like a 3-hour episode. Yeah. But you have to look at those three, I think, in succession and look at them as one whole episode, if you will, or story. I want to say story because the entire chapters and Genesis in of itself is a narration of a story, but those three really fit together.
Perhaps after 45, we can do a recap of the three.
Okay.
In one, like together. Maybe in the last episode, in 45, or maybe have its own separate.
Yeah, that's
because I think it could help pull it all together.
Yeah, cool. All right, that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks, you guys rock as always. I mean, hey, who can't have better people working with them than me?
Well, you're a great co-host.
Chris and his run sheets be getting me through.
Me too. I appreciate them.
Anyway, we are glad that you're tuning in. I like when they do the pointing. They're like, click here or up there or
like.
You're the one putting it up, so wherever you're gonna put it,
whatever you want to put it.
So I got to figure that out. But click and do all the like, subscribe stuff, right?
Hit the notification bell so that you see when we post.
And all of that.
We're also on like Apple.
We are.
YouTube Music and all the podcasting
wherever
platforms.
You find your podcast.
Yeah. YouTube is what people just automatically like talk about, but we're everywhere. Rate us on Apple.
I do listen to our Apple podcast. I make a point of listening to our Apple podcast so that there's at least one person.
Yeah. Sometimes I play it, but I don't necessarily listen because I listen on YouTube.
So, but anyway, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for joining.
Generational Scriptures. We will see you next time.
Peace.
Deuces.
See y'all.